Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community was Open D-Class cars on Forza Motorsport 5. Our first race was at the Catalonia National Circuit, and as we come down towards turn 1, it's almost 3 wide. That's not really ideal. The El Camino had a wheel on the grass and then gets very sideways through the first corner. And further back, things are relatively okay. It's a pretty nasty first corner here if you start towards the back of the field. For some reason, it's incredibly hard to see. There's a lot of smoke goes on into turn 1. So if you start towards the back of the field, it cautiously does it to try and make sure that you can get through there okay. El Camino was trying to go around the outside of a Dodge Charger at the top of the hill. That's a tough manoeuvre to get done in lovely sort of high grip cars. In an El Camino, it's quite an unlikely manoeuvre to get done. Mazda MX-5 Cup car was trying to make his way through the order. I may have escaped the track just a tiny bit at turn 1. I was struggling with my Ford Falcon. The MX-5 had absolutely none of the straight line speed at all. It was probably one of the slowest cars here when it came to the straight bits. However, had absolutely excellent grip and very, very quick through the corners. But it is quite hard to overtake at times when you lack that straight line speed, especially on a track like this, as an El Camino gets very sideways. A track like this, where your best overtaking spots, your two sort of best overtaking spots, primarily follow, or precedes them I should say, is a long straight. Doesn't bother the MX-5 though, has so much grip, you can do a very simple cutback on the RX-3 and make up a position. It can be a little bit of a tough place to overtake around here, the Catalonia circuit. Your best bet is into turn 1, as we have one of the most unusual battles I think we've seen, a Ford F100 versus a Toyota GT86. It's not very often that these two are raced against each other. Turn 1 is your best spot for overtaking. The Toyota gave it a go, just ran a little bit wide, and the Ford could do a cutback on him. Still, the Toyota is trying, going around the outside of the Ford. I don't know what it is about that Ford, but it has absolutely exceptional sort of launch out of all of the corners. It doesn't have the greatest top speed. I'm not sure if it wasn't slightly damaged in this particular race. I don't think it has the greatest top speed of any car here, but it has such fantastic launch out of all of the corners that it's apparently very hard to overtake. The Toyota was certainly struggling. Again, you'll see it out of the hairpin. The two cars are quite close as they come into the hairpin. Okay, not the greatest of lines from the Toyota, but as they leave, the Ford just fires itself down the road. I had managed to work my way up into 4. I didn't really like my car, my Falcon. I tried tuning it a little bit, and I'd gone a little bit too far and messed it up. So it wasn't a particularly nice car drive. I was struggling with quite a lot of understeer. And then this is where you learn not to go over the curbs, okay? I don't know what happened. I'm still confused by that one. I hit something. Well done for the Mazda to manage to not drive into the side of me. That it was a little bit close. I don't know, I was out a little bit wide. Everything was okay, and then it hits at something and then fires my car across the track. Curbs are nasty, okay? Be careful of them. You've got to avoid them. So yeah, I got unceremoniously dumped down to 5th, I think I ended up in. At the front though, it was to be a victory for a Datsun. There wasn't a huge amount of competition at the front. The first two were close-ish on track. They could see each other. There's somewhere in the background there is a Corvette Stingray. Yeah, there we go. Just about to see second place. Third place was quite a while back. So it was victory for the Datsun. Second for the Corvette Stingray. Third place will go to the MX-5 Cup car that was quite a lot further down the road. Second race, we went to the Sebring Club Circuit. Another track with a rather tricky first corner. One of the tightest first corners of any track that we go to, notorious for causing the odd collision. There was a little bit of bumping, and a few cars ended up doing a small bit of rallycross. However, amazingly, everybody got through there relatively intact. Unfortunately, yet again, lag would be a problem in some of the races. This one was no exception. A few cars would be killed with lag later on. In the first race as well, we had a few lag issues. The F100 though was making short work of a Camaro. A pretty tricky corner. I don't know what it is. That's just a corner that I don't really like driving around, and we see regularly in versus community people outbraking and say it's very easy to run a little bit too wide into that corner. The Ford continued its overtaking, finding itself on the inside of another Camaro. This is not a particularly easy corner to get an overtaking manoeuvre done at, but the Ford manages to, and yet again you see the drive out of the corner that the F100 gets over the Camaro. I'm still not quite sure how it does that, but either way, he quickly moved up into second place. I found myself in another unusual battle between a Ford Falcon and a Lotus Elan. I still think that the Ford and the Toyota is a little bit more unusual, but this is not your normal sight on a racing track. I got a bit brave and perhaps a bit foolish trying to go around the outside of an Elan. It was never likely to work. I've slightly escaped the track again. A little bit of rallycross going on from the Falcon. It's a tougher track to overtake around. This one, your best bet is into the first corner. The rest of the track is quite narrow, it's quite tight. It's not really ideal for the overtaking. I get brave and find myself going around the outside of the second to last corner and manage to get the move done, and I can now escape down the start-finish straight. It definitely helps a little bit to have that extra straight line speed on this particular track, as your two best overtaking spots have very long straights right before them. The Ford F100 made short work of the Datsun in the lead, coming down the back straight into the corner. The Datsun almost got away with going around the outside. I think there may have been a tiny bump between the pair of them, and the Datsun got pushed out a little bit wide. Either way, it didn't take long for the Ford to escape up the road, and the Datsun would have to settle into second place. Now these two would have a race-long battle over fourth place. I think it was fourth place, or was it fifth? I can't remember the exact positions. This is what their entire race looked like. There wasn't a huge amount of overtaking. They didn't swap places very often, but they spent the entire race pretty much nose to tail. The Datsun was just quick enough in a straight line to make it almost impossible for the Mazda to find a way past, and the Mazda wasn't so good through the corners that it could drive around the outside of the Datsun, so they just sort of stayed in a stalemate for many, many laps. And as you can see, I was catching up to them with my bright orange Ford. The Mazda got brave, tried to go around the outside, may have locked the rear brakes or had a wheel on the dirt. Coming into that corner, got it a little bit sideways, almost made it stick. It was worth an attempt anyway. But yeah, couldn't quite get that manoeuvre done. At the front, it was a fairly easy victory for the Ford. He would pull out a sizable gap over the rest of the field. I think that's the Datsun you can just about see in second place. The top three were just about in sight of each other, if you like, but they were never really challenged by anybody else. So it was victory for the Fords, second place for a Datsun, there we go, and third place for a Camaro. I remember what happened. Further back though, it was much more interesting on the final lap for fourth position between me, the Datsun, and the Mazda RX-3. I could quickly round up the Mazda when it came to the straights, fairly easily blast past him down the start-finish straight. The Datsun runs very wide into turn one, and while yes, I do have a lot more straight line speed than the Mazda, I've got to be aware of him trying to come back at me through the tighter corners. Again, down this next back straight, I know I have the speed over the Mazda. The Datsun was pretty damn quick in a straight line though, and I didn't have a huge amount more speed than him. As we go into this next corner, I too have the slightly scary moment putting a wheel on the grass, going into the corner sideways. The Mazda gives me a little bit of a bump. There's a Dodge Super Bee that's appeared from nowhere as we continue to squabble. The Dodge, very, very, very quick at a straight line, but not so good when it came to the cornering bits. The Mazda's having a dive up the inside, and I know I'm running out of places to overtake through these next few corners. I don't have the grip in my Falcon. I don't have the handling to go around the outside of the Datsun, and there's no real big straights anymore until we get on the start-finish line. So I have one real opportunity. If I get a nice run out of this final corner, I have to hope I have enough speed to outdrag the Datsun to the start-finish line. And the same thing is going on behind us as well with the Dodge and the Mazda, although the Dodge is quite a lot quicker than everything in a straight line. I managed to get myself to the inside. The Dodge is doing some rallycross around the outside of the Mazda. In the end, I can't quite outdrag the Datsun. One more lap, I think I would have had him. And yeah, I go a little bit crazy. One more lap, they would have had him. But as it was, the Datsun just beat me, and the Dodge managed to outdrag the Mazda to 6th place, I think it was. Our third and final race would go to the Silverstone International Circuit, and at the front things were all very calm through the first corner. People were too wide, everything though was all nicely under control. As we come into the next corner, further back it was not so nice. I had a very scary moment trying to dodge some sideways cars, and my Falcon got a little bit sideways. It's a little bit of a scary first section, I'll be honest, on this track, because you find everybody's going too wide through the opening few corners because it's nice and wide. Yeah, a little bit scary further back. This is a track that I think perhaps suits the straight line speed cars a little bit more around here. There are some slightly technical sections, especially the last sort of corners, but most of the track is very wide. Most of the corners are pretty fast, and there is a very long sort of back straight to this track. So yeah, a little bit more straight line speed here can be quite useful, and the muscle cars were making the most of it as the Dodge Challenger finds his way past the Pontiac Firebird as they come into the final section. I was trying my best to make my way through the field as best as I could. This track suited the Falcon a little bit more. I was happier with my car at this particular track. I had to be quite brave in trying to get past the Firebird. Around the outside of that final corner is not very nice. It's not really a place that I want to particularly be, especially not in a car that I was really struggling for grip with. Around the outside of turn 1 as well. Somehow I made the move stick. It got a bit of a twitch on halfway through that corner. I didn't think that was going to work. I'll be honest. I surprised myself in managing to get that particular maneuver to work. I would very quickly catch up to the back of a Toyota as we come towards the back straight. I have so much straight line speed in this car compared to the Toyota. I could simply drive around the outside and get on the straight and blast past the Toyota. You do struggle. If you don't have a lot of straight line speed on this track, you're going to struggle really. Behind me there was a Toyota Celica that was also trying to make his way through the field, and he was being followed by a blue Pontiac Firebird as they tried to go 3 wide into the final corner. I mean, I said it was scary trying to go 2 wide through here. Trying to fit 3 cars into the same bit of track is quite crazy, but everybody got out of it relatively well. The Celica kind of got stuck on the outside and had to kind of concede the position as they run into turn 1. They're still all vying for that position. The blue Firebird was very good through the corners but had absolutely no straight line speed, so had to kind of make up as much time as he could through these opening tight corners, because he knows he's going to lose all of that time when it comes to the very long back straight. And still the 2 Firebirds are side by side. The Celica is trying to take as neat a line as possible onto this back straight, try and carry as much speed, as this is where the Celica is relatively strong. The blue Firebird is now ditched by absolutely everything. These cars were side by side pretty much as they rounded that corner onto the straight, and the Firebird and Celica, or the black Firebird and Celica, have pulled a huge gap to the blue car. That's what you get with having a little bit more straight line speed. It is quite useful on this track, although the blue Firebird will catch them up through the final sections of corners. I find myself in a rather big muscle car duel between my Falcon and a Dodge Challenger. Yeah, we're doing the 2 wide thing around the final corner. It was quite scary for the Challenger going out there. It's not really ideal in cars like these. These muscle cars, most of them start off quite high in D class, so you really don't have much room for handling upgrades. They're not the easiest cars in the world to drive. However, the Challenger managed to hold it around the outside of the first corner to retain the position. Takes a bit of a shallow line through this corner, allows me to get up alongside, and I will be on the inside when it comes to the corner onto the straight. However, I do have to take quite a shallow line. If you're going to do an overtake there, it's not really an ideal position. You end up taking a very shallow line coming onto this long straight, which means you tend to be a little bit slow off the corner, and the Dodge Challenger can capitalise on that. It is slightly quicker than my Falcon when it came to the straight, and sure enough, he gets to the inside. Well, the 2 cars behind us were squabbling as well. I didn't think I could make this manoeuvre work, but somehow the Falcon goes around the outside of the Challenger. I didn't think I would have the speed or the grip to do that, but amazingly, I managed to get away with it. At the front though, it was to be the Ford F100 that would take the victory by a humongous margin. It vanished up the road from everybody else. Admittedly, a lot of us were squabbling for positions through that race, but yeah, the Ford vanished off at the front. Second place would go to the Mazda MX-5 Cup car. I would inherit third place after the Mustang that was in third had a little bit of a spin. So I got a podium with my horrible Falcon. I messed up my car, which was a little bit of a shame. It did okay, but yeah, the Falcon was not the easiest of cars to drive. So yeah, there we go. It was 2 victories for a Ford pickup truck. I didn't expect that particularly when we did this, but yeah, there we go. If you want to take part in our next Fail Race versus the community, we are going to be racing on Forza Horizon 2. Well, I say racing. We're actually going to be doing some of the playground games on Forza Horizon 2. We're doing a mixture of the King and Infected game modes. It will be taking place on Thursday the 30th of October. It will be on the Xbox One version of Horizon 2 as well, just in case people were confused. It'll be starting at 7 p.m. GMT time. Yes, in England the clocks have changed, so 7 p.m. GMT time. And if you wish to sign up, then you can go to our forums. There will be a link in the description. Find the FailRace versus the community section, and yeah, you can sign up in there. We will be using S1 class cars. No restrictions on them as long as they are in S1 class. However, that is it for today. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.